There we are after a 1-week reprieve, and that was a good reprieve with the music changed up for episode 94 and Elvis Merzlikins. We're back to the old techno bop for In Goal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard along with the co-founders of In Goal Magazine, Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, and we are going to get into our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina and Collin, Delia in just a little bit, and a visit with Ken Matwev for the Hockey Shop source for sports in Surrey, dealing with the two-man and chesties. But gentlemen, good to see you guys, and good to talk to you about the world of goaltending, in which things are starting to look like they're leaning towards a return to the National Hockey League as players, Woody, are starting to inch back to their host cities.
Yeah, it's funny because I've talked to a few of the coaches that work with some of them privately, and there really is a mixed bag here. I was a little surprised. We talked to Elvis Merzlikins a couple of weeks ago for last week's episode, and he seemed to really be settled into Switzerland. Next thing I know on Instagram, he's headed back to Columbus, where the Blue Jackets have positive tests and are basically shutting down their rink for a little bit. So I've heard different things from different guys. We saw Braden Holtby make some headlines coming back to Vancouver here. Texted him, and he was not too thrilled that his tortoises not being able to cross the border had made so many headlines, because he was hoping to slip in quietly to Vancouver. But we're sort of starting to see more guys headed back, and yet in other cities, I talked to Dustin Schwartz the other day, and he's skating right now with a couple of guys, skating with Carter Hart in Edmonton, or just outside of Edmonton. Carter Hart and Tristan Jarry both skating with him, and honestly, with everything that's going on, as long as you can get ice and they have access to private, and stay safe, which they are, and follow the rules, which they are, why would you risk getting into a situation like Merzlikins did, where you go from a place where you're able to practice quite easily to, potentially not being able to get on the ice? And I think the reality is there's just such volatility in this situation, no matter where you go, that there's always going to be a risk. But yeah, so it's tempered enthusiasm, I guess, right? Excited that guys are thinking about January and the possibility of getting back. And at the same time, we haven't got a date, and, with some of the negotiation stuff, I'm not sure we're getting in one anytime soon.
The players that are going to play in the Canadian division, they have to get ahead of the curve a little bit because of the mandatory 14-day quarantine. So that's probably one reason why we're seeing a few players come back. But on the subject of Canada and Woody and Hutch, this is an interesting development, as Hockey Canada has decided to step back after some positive tests, both with the support staff and the coaching staff and the players, that they're going to deal with a pause in their program. And Hutch, this has a filter down effect because there's a IIHF window where you have to have your roster in, and because the Western Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League, all those loops aren't playing right now, you don't have a lot of body to work with to select your team, and that involves the goaltenders that are in camp.
Doesn't give them a lot of time, but you got to think the IIHF is going to be flexible in all things as we try and find a way through all of this. So I hope they're going to help them work their way through that. They've had a little camp time. I guess on the one hand, it might be a blessing that Canada had to come, or chose to come together so much earlier. So they've now had an opportunity to see some of these guys at least, and Woody can fill us in a little bit more on that. So that they've had an opportunity to see some and maybe make some decisions. But yeah, challenges. And I just, I don't know, maybe it's the goalie parent in me, but I think about these kids now quarantining in the hotel for 14 days. And some of them will get released after sitting in a hotel to quarantine, hoping that their World Junior dream will come true. It's got to be hard on everybody there. And these are young men, right? They're not NHL veterans trying to work through what was probably a much, in many ways, easier bubble to live through than what these young men are going to have to go through in a hotel in Red Deer over the next little while.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, their goalie coach pretty much had to go home. He's in quarantine as well, Jason LaBarbera, because of some of the staff exposure that they'd had. He was, had an exposure there, and so my understanding was that he'd actually gone home. Kind of tough to judge and evaluate these guys in such limited action. I guess you do have some practice time, but a guy like Devin Levy, the NCAA kid that was invited up, that left his NCAA school to come up and be a part of this early, he wasn't even with the main group yet and not a part of any of their scrimmages. And so how do you make a decision on a guy like that? So it's not going to be easy. It was already going to be a tough situation for them because nobody had played games amongst this group. You can't have a Joel Hofer like last year, a guy who just tears it up in the WHL and absolutely makes a statement that he needs to be on the team. Haven't had any of those opportunities to have viewings like that. So I'd be interested to see which way they go. I got an idea which way they lean. I think Levy will be on this team. I think Dylan Garan, the New York Rangers draft pick, who I think Hutch, your son Matthews, had a chance to skate with during the pause. I think he'll be there. And I think, my hunch is that third spot's going to come down to Taylor Gauthier, and Brochu. And it'll be interesting to see which way they go there. For a team that, one guy's older and got a lot more experience, but plays, is perfectly capable of carrying a team to a gold medal, but plays with some inconsistencies and some up and downs in his game. I mean, everybody's got up and downs in their game, but his, from a style perspective, swings a little more than others. And this is a team that I'm not sure they're going to need superstar goaltending, but they need steady. And so is that a guy who, becomes less of an option because the highs and lows tend to be, so much bigger? It'll be really interesting. Not an easy decision, like I said, and I'm kind of curious to see which way they go.
Well, the evolution of Hockey Canada and deciding to shut down is going to make it a lot more difficult to pick a team based on reps and practices and scrimmages and inter-squad games, exhibition games, which were to start this weekend. And we're now to American Thanksgiving, and you're at that time period where you expect to have a lot more of a book on things. But we also have American Thanksgiving that's providing us an opportunity to pick up some gear, to pick up some product. And that also goes to the Hockey Shop source for sports in Surrey. And the evolution of In Goal magazine, I must tell you, has been remarkable, because now the gear segments with Cam and Woody are available with video and not just in the podcast. And to be able to see you and Cam, Woody, with that wall of goaltending in the background leaves me drooling.
Well, let's be honest. The only good-looking part of the videos with me and Cam is the wall of gear that sits behind us. So thankfully, it sort of takes the eyes away from us two idiots in the front talking about it. So that's kind of the lone blessing. I got to say, a lot of that gear's on sale right now, especially with the Black Friday and some of the past year's models. Some really great savings that have already started at the Hockey Shop source for sports in Surrey and online at thehockeyshop.com. There'll be more as we get into Black Friday, but a lot of them are already available. We talked about some of the key ones. 2 for $300 on pro stock sticks from Bauer. These are sticks that were made for pro goalies. Obviously, the one that jumped out to us, there was Freddie Anderson. There was Henrik Lundqvist with that squared off paddle we talked about last week, and that sort of custom modern grip, as Sean Murray would call it. So some really good deals there, getting 2 for $300. And then pretty much all the CCM Premier line right now, the entire thing, the Premier Tier 2 series, pads, gloves, blocker, chest protectors, pants, the entire thing is 40% off. Leg pads of past models, 40 to 60% off. Same with gloves and blockers, and masks are 40 to 60% off as well. Some great deals on Bauer and Warrior chest protectors as well. So if you're looking for the latest and greatest, the Hockey Shop source for sport is the place to go. But right now, if you're looking for deals and you're willing to maybe take last year's model, there are some incredible opportunities to save. So make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com.
Pro Return Sticks, what a deal on that. And for those that aren't familiar, that squared off grip that Henrik Lundqvist uses with the paddle, and you call for availability to see if there's any remaining. What is that design supposed to do with his blocker?
Well, for In Goal Premium members, they'll have seen we actually have a video and a story up on In Goal Premium where Henrik actually takes us into the stick room when he was in town with the Rangers to visit the Canucks. I think it was last year or the year before. It took me forever to get that video online, by the way. And just kind of walked us through why and how he holds it, and showed us with his bare hand how he sort of holds the 2 fingers down, and it allows him to sort of keep in his mind that blocker square. We've seen as the protection on the inside of blockers has grown over the years, a lot of goalies have a tendency to sort of turn it, and especially when they go into blocking mode, it's almost with the sidewall of the blocker. Henrik really keeps that blocker active, and he sort of almost moves it up and down, sort of almost like there's an imaginary post in front of him for people that know that sort of box control mentality. And he's sort of moving it up and down, and he keeps it really square throughout. There's not a lot of turning with Henrik Lundqvist and his blocker. And so then Sean Murray, who teaches and likes to use the same thing at a school here, Performance Goalie Schools in Vancouver, he's been doing this as well for a while with the same idea. The grip, it's really, Henrik's stick is really quite tapered on the other side. You got the square on one side and a really tapered grip on the other side. And it allows you to sort of have that forearm run along the shaft of the stick and sort of match those lines. And it just seems to create a really good active hand posture for your wrist and for your blocker and keeping it square. Brandon Maxwell, who's playing overseas right now, played at the Olympics with the Americans last year. He was trying it. He's been a great supporter of In Goal Premium and a great reader of In Goal Premium. And he sent me a message last week saying that he had his trainer saw off the stick, create the square grip, and also create a trigger on the other side of it for the finger to go into. And he just loved it. Felt the same types of things in terms of, the way it really freed up your blocker to move and stay square on pucks and not turn off of things. So yeah, long-winded explanation by me, but if you want a better definition, better detail, make sure you check out the article at ingoalmag.com and In Goal Premium. Lundqvist himself breaks it down with video, and we've got a lot of detailed explanation with video and drill demonstrations featuring Sean Murray as well.
So bear with me here as I ask a very layman question. And Hutch and Woody, I want you both to think about this in regards to the Henrik Lundqvist stick and where it's sawed off. It's a 25-inch paddle. If you wanted to try that on your own, just to experiment before you order the stick, would you need a higher paddle length and then to cut it off? Or you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, and it's kind of a tough question. Like, honestly, it would depend on how angled the shoulder of your stock stick is, right? So if you've got a sort of shallow, like if it comes up gradually and you cut it off at the bottom of where that starts, so basically the largest point, the widest point of the paddle at the top corner, you're going to potentially be moving your grip down a fair bit. But on a stick that has a sort of already has a fairly, maybe not squared off, but it kind of steep's the wrong word. It's almost the opposite of steep. Yeah, just kind of like flatter, flatter top. You're not going to be cutting all that much off. And I think a lot of us, when we hold a stick, like, I don't know about you, Darren, but like a lot of people, and this is what you need to think of when you hold a stick, do you sort of put that meat of in between your thumb and your forefinger that into your palm? Are you putting it right in the crook where your paddle intersects with your shaft? Or are you kind of putting it over that shoulder of the paddle? In which case you're already sort of cupping down on it a little bit. And the difference, I think what I'm trying to say is I don't think the difference is as big as a lot of people think or worry it might be, because a lot of us already sort of hold the paddle down around the shoulder versus holding it right up on the shaft on top of where the shoulder meets. It's a tough visual, but does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. Hutch, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, we could do a whole show on sticks, couldn't we, and what you can do with them. And personal bugbear for me that just sort of comes up as we're talking is, how many stick saves have you ever made while standing on your feet? No, wait, guys our age probably shouldn't answer that, but most goaltenders, any stick save you make, you're already on your knees. And I think there's a trend towards smaller paddle lengths, because you should probably be sizing your stick for when you're down in the butterfly, not when you're standing up. You're not looking to cover that low ice while you're on your feet. And so many people will size a very large stick thinking, oh my gosh, I can't have my stick off the ice when I'm standing. Then they go down in the butterfly and it has to be at some extreme angle in order to keep the stick on the ice, or you open up a hole with the arm as you try and bring it in a little tighter.
Or you're deflecting it right into your nether regions.
Yeah, maybe this is like those little putters a lot of guys went to on the tour, so they've got a little bit more control over them or something. But so
if you're deflecting it into your net, you should make that your warm-up stick instead.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Well, Woody's got an up stick and a down stick, so when he gets a little bit more tired and knows he's going to be down a bit more, he goes to get the down stick.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Woody, you were playing around as we watched this as we record it, we can see each other, and it looks like you've got a little bit more to add.
No, I was just playing around with sort of, I grabbed a paddle off the wall, one of the sign sticks we have in the collection here for future giveaways, and just grabbed a price model, and saw what it was like. And I do think that, I think you do sort of go down onto that paddle a little bit with your hand just naturally. I think most goalies do. I don't think very many of us are gripping it right on the, the thin part of the shaft.
Good. I've experimented with the trigger finger, that part where you're not pinching your finger if you do paddle down, that kind of thing, just a little bit more control. But I was looking at those Lundqvist sticks and wondering, because it's the 25-inch and I would use a 26.5, how much would it make a difference? I don't know, your eyebrows are raised, but I'm old.
I just don't know if Kay would approve of 26.5, Darren. Can you get that through?
Well, Kay doesn't come out to my league. Okay, I love you, but I'm using I look like a KHLer that's overeaten. That's had 3 buffets. That's what I look like out there. But that's a fascinating description between the two of you about how sticks are trending and what you would do with that Henrik Lundqvist twig, which all gets us towards the hockey shop, a hockey shop source for sports in Surrey. That stick sale on sale right now, and so many different things available with Cam Matwiv and company. And it also gets us towards our gear segment, which finishes up the run, the residency, so to speak, with Cam and Woody and their run of 2-man in chesties. And in particular, this one is fascinating. In particular.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're down here in Goalie Utopia, surrounded by the latest and greatest in goaltending gear, all the top brands, all the top models, all the best pricing, including some discounts. Black Friday is coming up, and they've been rolling those out. Make sure you not only check out all their social media, check them out at the website, thehockeyshop.com, but subscribe to their email newsletter as well, Cam, because there'll be specials coming out that way that'll give you
You don't need to tell me. I'm already subscribed.
But all your email addresses?
Not all.
Yeah, he's got a few burner accounts. We'll get into those a little later. But make sure you're checking them out honestly on a daily basis from now through Black Friday, because there will be new specials posted ongoing. Lots of great deals on past models. But today we're going to focus on something new. We're going to continue, actually wrap up our chest protector series with a look at the Vaughn Velocity V9 Pro Carbon model that they stock here at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. And I guess the first question we're going to have is, why do I have no arms? No, folks. The theory was this might be the new NHL sizing limits. Just joking, Kay. That we would just have to go out there like this. And in my case, there's not much to it. Cam, there's got to be a reason you gave me a chest unit and you have arms. Explain it to us.
So one of my favorite pieces out of this Vaughn chest, and something brand new from Vaughn in particular, is Velcro adjustable arms. Something that we have not had previously in Vaughn chests.
We've seen it in other ones. We've seen it recently. We talked about the Brian's Optic. This is new though for Vaughn, first ever time.
Yes, especially in why it is so groundbreaking is a lot of times on Vaughn chest, to macro adjust it, we would have to literally sew pin the arms with our wizard Cecil upstairs in our sharpening department. Would have to stitch them in to be a little bit shorter to dial in someone that maybe needed a medium body or a large body with medium arms in particular. Now this is something that we can adjust on the fly.
Okay, before we get into it, I got a little call timeout because you're talking about Cecil and the Wizards. As we talk about Wizards, is this Movember? I gotta ask, or did you forget to shave like the Harry Potter wizard for Halloween?
Well, Harry Potter wizard, I'll leave it to a late great singer artist who is no longer with us. That's what I was paying homage to.
Oh, so this was a Halloween costume.
Well, for whatever Halloween was this year.
And you got a Movember account, or at least can do something positive with that?
Yeah, you've seen it up on our THS goal. Yes, we have a picture of me in Movember, and I believe I think we linked it to a donation site with Movember as well.
Okay, we'll make sure we get you those.
I'm piggybacking off of someone this year. I don't have my own Movember page. I am
And of course,
off someone else's.
as we do with the gear, we got to remember we're doing the podcast and a simulcast with the video. So everyone's like, what is Woodley talking about? I'm talking about the really bad handlebar mustache that Cam Matwith has on right now for our podcast listeners. Okay, I'm going to let you continue now, telling me why this is such a great step for Vaughn to have the removable arms in this V9 Pro Carbon Velocity chest protector.
So straight up adjustability, once again. Very easily connected arm. Lots of Velcro travel with it. And it just basically goes on like a sleeve. So this is the entire reason for those that can't see. I'm just wearing the arms independently right now. And Kevin's just wearing the body of the unit in particular. A good bread and butter for Vaughn always has been is ease of movement in the arms in particular. I can easily move around. Obviously, I don't have them attached to the chest, but I have a great degree of flexibility right off the bat in particular. Something we've done previously in Vaughn units, we've done our own THS spec.
The hockey shop spec.
Exactly. This is a first time in a while, and kudos to Vaughn, that we felt that the chest protector, the arms, actually feel beefed up in a stock unit in particular.
So you didn't have to order a special spec beefed up unit for the hockey shop. You felt they'd come far enough in terms of protection for the arm that you don't need that.
Yes, but we still believe that our colors are better, so we did that.
So this is custom colors. Very stylish. I should have worn my red hat this week. I forgot it.
That's too bad, but that's okay. So moving around the unit itself, quite a few other things have changed even from the last velocity unit, the VE8 in particular. So not only were we talking about the arms, the floaters have been updated, much more substantial in terms of the coverage and feel out of it in particular.
Without sacrificing, because let's be honest, like when we talk about what a chest protector is, different brands are known for different coverage, mobility. Some are a little stiffer out of the box. You just need to give them a little time. Vaughn's always been about mobility. Correct. And as we talked about with the protection, it was a unit that I think a lot of people, you just expected to feel maybe a few more pucks on the arms before. It sounds like they've taken steps to solve that, but not at the expense of the mobility you're talking about with the arms.
Exactly. So again, still very easily, mobile, but they've kind of focused on being able to dial in a couple of the other pieces of the unit as well. The shoulder floaters in particular have gone through quite a big change for Vaughn. They still have their classic pad that's underneath that puffs up the shoulders in particular. It's a Velcro removable pad. But the way that they've actually designed the unit this year is that entire shoulder can be pushed upwards or brought in to make a more of a tapered fit. So if you're looking for more of a raised presence inside the net, you can reset the shoulder floater and I'll have it pop up and puff up. So like their classic units like V5, V6 in particular. Or if you want to get a little bit more of that rounded shape to go along with, even the classic V8 unit in particular, you can Velcro that down a little bit more to have it sit a little bit more tapered on your body in particular.
What are some of the other features? What are some of the feedback that you're getting on this unit? Again, anything that sort of separates it from Vaughn units of the past and our expectations for them?
So far, again, ease of adjustment, which we have already covered kind of extensively. That mobility level is already fantastic out of the box. They've gotten rid of the plastic clips along the side and gone with the Velcro adjustment in particular. Again, with the goal of having that good, nice, tight fit wrap, but not having to worry about, busting that plastic buckle. Particularly to get that air and shot.
All right. Anything we're missing on the Vaughn V9 Pro Carbon Chest Protector Cam?
Good lightweight unit, hand built in Canada. The quality's there. It's Vaughn staple for quite a long time. If you're looking for mobility but a little bit of a snugger fit and potentially a tapered fit, or if you're looking to even beef up, especially your shoulder presence, look no further than this guy right here, the Vaughn V9 Pro Carbon.
Thanks, Cam. Make sure you check them out at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. And Cam, where can they get you if they've got questions about fit? My kid is growing. He's in between sizes. How much adjustability is in the arms? Am I looking at a medium? Am I looking at a large? Am I looking like Kevin Woodley and I want to go extra large because he needs to mix in a salad and because he wants to cheat as much as possible? If they want to get a hold of you and ask those types of really important questions, where can they get you?
You can find the 1-800 number down here. Or you can give me a call at 604-589-8299.
One 800-567-7790. Operators are standing by. Operator's name, Cam. He doesn't know the number, but that is the number, 1-800-567-7790. I call it maybe the odd time. I don't remember people's numbers anymore, gentlemen. Like the old days. Like you guys can probably both remember your childhood numbers from when you were growing up.
Yep.
I was 728-1852, and I don't remember anybody's numbers anymore, but I know the 1-800-567-7790 from the hockey shop, which is both good and bad, but mostly good because I'm checking it out all the time. In particular, that was a fascinating episode with the little dings. If everybody caught on to the little dings that we all have these crutches, these little go-to phrases, and we've discovered Cam's, Woody.
We have. What was the total, Hutch, on the dings in particular? People that
16.
were listening to it.
Go watch the video.
Listening to it on the pod. Go watch the video.
Watch the video.
Yeah, the other thing you'll notice in the video too is that as we described, Cam is wearing the chest and I am wearing the arms, or maybe vice versa. He was wearing the arms and I was wearing the chest because, as he said, the new Vaughn V9 chest protector has removable arms, which is a big thing for them. And also, as you heard him say, for the first time, he didn't have to order a special hockey shop edition that was all beefed up because we know Vaughn has been known for their mobility when it comes to chest protectors, but not always necessarily known for their protection. To me, it was always crazy. Vaughn goalies loved it. They swear by it because of the mobility, but they accepted bruises. And I was just like, I'm way too soft to accept that as a part of my life at beer league. I should not look like that at the end of it. But they do. You don't have to with this Vaughn V9. The other good news, now that the arms are removable, if we ever get a test unit from them, actually, maybe this is bad news. It'll be like that time we tested the V8 line and they only sent us one pad. Do you want the glove arm touch or do you want the blocker arm?
I don't even know where to go.
I want the glove arm.
You think
if you could pick.
Yeah, and the glove, you could probably protect yourself a little bit with the blocker, just like, sort of turn a little bit. Yeah, and for folks that don't know, we had to do a review once with only one pad because that's all that was available. So
with Woody on the cover in the VH, and you would think he's wearing two pads, which might tell you something about his VH technique.
Why are all these pictures of VH in this review? Well, it's kind of hard to do much else when you've only got one pad to work with.
That's very creative.
I never
creative
thought of
people. It before. Which arm do you make more saves with? That's interesting, and I'm trying to, off the top of my head, think about it, and I would
gotta be blocked.
Now that I've gone through it, I'm like, do you make more with the blocker arm because you don't have that ability to catch the puck?
I think so, and just the way that it covers space because it's sort of bent as you're lifting up the blocker, and the other hand is just sort of reaching out and waving as the puck goes by, so it doesn't get hit.
I know. I for me, the answer would be whichever one actually has the arm piece attached to it. I'd be turning sideways.
Turning sideways, yeah.
Well, it was interesting how easy it is to attach those arms to the chesty.
Yeah, and really good.
And really
good. And really good adjustability there too. So full credit to Vaughn recognizing an area where others had sort of added that component in past years, the ability to, because that adjustability is important, especially for kids. And especially, we had the Warrior chest protector on a couple weeks ago, and you really do need to fit that one for the arms with the mechanical arms if you go to the Pro Plus. And, not everybody has matching sort of arm length and torso size. And so you need a sort of flexibility in that. And you heard Cam talk about with past Vaughn models, they would have to actually have Cecil do some stitching to shorten them up and things like that. And yeah, you've got full adjustability in this. I got to say, make fun of the one pad thing, but it was a really comfortable unit to be sitting in there that day. And the mobility, which they've always been known for, has definitely not been compromised for the added protection. I could have done pretty much anything in that chest protector, right off the wall, sitting down, put on the mask, drink a cup of coffee, do whatever. Most of the time I was just throwing things at Cam and calling him names, but I could have done anything in that thing. It was nice. Yeah, it was very, very comfortable.
If you had the option, do you think most goaltenders would make one arm shorter than the other, a catching arm as opposed to the blocking arm? If you just had the option.
Okay, you lost me. I got to ask why.
Well, yeah, I'd take my blocker arm shorter because I can dial in my stick length.
Yeah. Right. So if you've got that full adjustability, why not take advantage of it, right? It's again, for the second time in this podcast, it's something I've never thought of, but
There you go.
Yeah, and isn't it great?
These are the answers.
Yeah, and isn't it? We often talk about how goalies love to dial their gear in, and this isn't just about fit, because everybody's going to want that integration with the gloves to be a little bit different, and now you can fine tune that. It's not just to be acceptable; it's what's best for your individual performance. So I love when gear can do that,
and you can dial it in.
So I mean, yeah,
it'd be like Ryan Miller when he had his true skates. He had a 1/4 inch lift in one side because one leg was longer than the other. So he had like a 1/4 inch lift on the heel of one of his true skates so that he would balance him out and make sure that sort of both legs were the same length. I remember him telling me that. And then this summer during the pause, as part of a fundraiser that Ryan took part in, he auctioned off, remember, a bunch of his gear. And every time I saw the true skates come up, I'm like, who the hell else is going to be able to wear those things?
That would be fascinating to watch. Is he the only goaltender you know that's ever done that?
I know there are other goaltenders that have put heel lifts in their skates to try and get a forward pitch and try and make themselves taller. Then that's in years past. That's not anybody recently. But Ryan's the only guy that's ever told me he's done it in terms of, and True allows you to do that, right? There's a customization there where they were able to sort of build that into the one-piece skate. So there may be others, because now that you mentioned the arm length thing, it makes perfect sense. But Ryan's the only one that sort of ever told me that he does it.
Well, now I know that there's going to be goaltenders out there that are going to be putting on their chesty and dialing in their arm length, trying to see exactly whether or not you'd like your blocker arm shorter than your glove hand while you use the Sensorina, because you can do that in your living room and really get it dialed in and train all at the same time. Sensorina are presenting sponsor of our feature interview, Woody.
Yeah, and Sensorina you can get for In Goal Magazine premium members. You can save a whack ton of cash from now through Monday, November 30th. Hutch, the Black Friday sale ends?
Yeah, finishes Monday. And if you look around, there's a lot of deals on Sensorina with Black Friday, and we had the option to offer something similar. And because we've had this close relationship with them now, Kevin and I had a discussion with Bob and found a way to pass on a lot more to our premium members. So there's nowhere else that I know of you can do this. If you're a premium member, you get another $100 off those units compared to everybody else. So that's great value. And I mean, I would think everybody would want to be a premium member anyway, Kevin. But if you're just looking for that, then it's a great opportunity for some savings and some great goalie content for the year. And so that means that you're ending up paying like $350 US for this brand new Oculus 2 unit that comes with the Sensorina. I think that's cheaper than you can get the unit just about anywhere else on Black Friday on its own.
Yeah, it's $650 off the regular price of $1,000. It comes with their Goalie to Go package, which is the new Oculus 2 headset. It comes with both the holders, so to speak, the paddles, I guess they are, but also the attachments that allows you to attach them to your blocker and glove, and it comes with a really nice carrying case. So it's a pretty good package. And like Hutch said, if you're an In Goal premium member, you can save $650 off the regular price. You can get it for $350, cheaper than the Oculus would cost you to buy it on its own, and a bigger discount, frankly, than anybody else is offering. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm biased, of course, towards In Goal Premium. But even if, compared to some of the other offers that are out there, you can spend $50 Canadian on In Goal Premium, and you're still going to save like an extra $60, and you get our content for a whole year, and you get Sensorina at $60 less than anybody else is offering it for. So deals, deals, deals. And if you really don't want to become an In Goal Premium member, you're that stubborn, you can use the code IGM50, I believe it is, Hutch, and you will still save $550 off the price. You can get it for $450 instead of $350. So yeah, lots of good deals from Sensorina, and we're looking forward to continuing this partnership with them. I would say that as much as we're talking Black Friday, the next thing up is Christmas, and especially at a time when a lot of people can't get on the ice. Like, to me, this is a really good Christmas gift for goaltenders.
Yeah, and it took me about 14 seconds to text the two of you when I saw the promo. Going, what is this real? Wow, this is unbelievable.
Well, and I think it speaks to the way word is getting out about how good this product is. And when you hear guys like Billy Ranford talking about it and the goalies, because you weren't the only one that texted me about it, Darren. I got a text message from an NCAA goalie coach where his program is looking into it as well. As soon as he saw our email and with all the stuff he'd heard about it on the podcast, they're like, okay, now's the time to get in. So you weren't the only one texting us about it. It is a really good deal. And we've been doing our due diligence. It is a really good product.
Yeah, I could tell that other people were texting you because Hutch was the first person that texted me back. It took you a while, so I know where I rate on the hierarchy with Woody. Go ahead, Hutch.
Well, just speaking of World Juniors, as we were earlier, I actually spoke earlier today with Zach Fucali, who was a World Junior gold medalist for Canada. He is the record holder with a few other guys, including Carter Hart, for most wins at the World Junior level, and a Sense Arena user as well. And it's almost embarrassing because now that Sense Arena is working with us, all these guys are coming out of the woodwork that are using it. They're not set up for us. One of them was. But Zach wasn't. Again, a little bit of a surprise as we finished off our conversation today. So more people enjoying it. And Zach's recently signed with Washington.
That relationship with goaltenders and the interest and the participation in the podcast and in-goal mag is really unique. And then another example is Collin Delia, who joins us today on our feature interview presented by Sense Arena. And Woody, I'll let you set this one up because it's a long, winding conversation that covers a life. It covers dedication. It covers unique training. It covers his interest and his passion for goaltending and his relationship with In-Goal Mag, because he does follow and listen to the podcast as well. There's a lot packed into this really comfortable discussion that you guys had.
Yeah, I'd heard, I hadn't had the chance to talk to Collin before this interview. I'd heard all kinds of good things from one of our writers, Kat Silverman, who's done a lot of work for In-Goal Magazine. She had nothing but great things to say about her past conversations. His goaltending coach in the minors in the American Hockey League, Peter Aubry. I've talked to him about Collin before, and they all kind of told me how good this conversation was going to be because he really is. It's that passion. Remember, we saw that passion from Elvis Merzlikins the week before.
Yeah.
And Collin has the same passion. He expresses it in it's a little more, I don't want to say deeper thinking because I don't want to be dismissive of Elvis's passion, but it's just, it comes across with a different vibe, right? He's a thinker. And he's passionate about the position and all the different things you can do to get better playing it. And we talked about school and engineering and life. I mean, he's got a young son at home now, and what it was like to go through that during the lockout, the pause, and then going back to the bubble. Just a lot of stuff going on in his world right now, and he's set to become the Chicago. He's one of 3 guys competing for 2 spots with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's in a really good position to be on that team this year, and just a lot going on, and he was open and honest and sharing with all of it. So it's I'm excited to share this one with everyone. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed it, and I think our listeners will too.
And one of the areas that really jumped out at me was just having to push himself and come up with unique ways to train and be ready inside the bubble, because there's so much focus on the current roster that's playing. And when you're a member of the taxi squad, you kind of just have to find unique and different and challenging ways to make sure that you're ready. And he had to do that on the fly in the bubble while dealing with some life that was happening on the outside of that bubble. It's a fun discussion. Collin Delia, in conversation with Kevin Woodley, our feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast presented by Sense Arena. Enjoy.
Okay, honestly, Collin, I don't even know where to start in terms of what being a new dad has been like, being in the bubble. There's obviously a lot of talk about next season for you. Your hobbies and interests outside of hockey are fascinating. You're an engineer in university. I feel like we could take this in so many different directions. But why don't you just start by catching us up right now? New dad, young son. How are you managing the time, and how are you managing to balance that with getting ready for a season?
Yeah, sure. First off, thanks for considering me for, the podcast. I'm a huge fan. But honestly, just it's moment by moment right now, with no like season start date, really hammered down. Like it's just, all hands on deck at home, trying to help out, Ava and help out mom, the best I can. But we had our son back on June 10th. That was amazing, absolutely incredible. There was a lot going on, obviously, in the world then, but he's really been a shining light for us and a welcome distraction. In a world that's just really, pretty divisive right now. So we're super thankful for that. And then going to the bubble, that was super hard to leave the family, especially when, it was good to be a Black Ace and understand, what playoff hockey is all about at the next level, but, also very hard when, you consider, having a newborn at home. So it just made that time with him prior, and after so much more meaningful. And I've just been super fortunate to be able to spend an extended period of time with them. I mean, I don't think we'd ever get this amount of time. I was talking to Ava the other day. I was like, I don't think we'll ever get this amount of time together, again, like during this time of year, so it's been pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, obviously very fortunate to, live here in Chicago and be training. We have access to a gym at the rink where we practice. Our strength coach, Paul Goodman, he actually has a personal gym that he runs on the other side of Fifth Third Arena. So thankfully we've been able to get in there, and then we can get on the ice and skate. But really just kind of taking it easy. I mean, obviously pushing hard in the gym, but right now on the ice, it's kind of hard. So just really looking forward to having some goalie sessions, more specifically with goalie coach, or, just being around the guys, in that locker room environment is really something that's pretty special. I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that guys miss after they stop playing, is that camaraderie and that closeness, that bond and joking around. And it's hard, I think, when you don't have it right now, especially around this time of year. It's kind of like that Pavlov's dog, like it's what, November, and it's like we're not playing right now. It seems so strange, to have that like social interaction and whatnot. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. We're just enjoying time with each other, and raising the little one, making as much of his food as we can. That's something we're really passionate about, is just cooking specifically. I mean, I love to cook. That's also another one of my hobbies. And Ava, sometimes she gives me a hard time because she's like, we don't have to make everything from scratch every night. We can have a frozen meal every now and then. But no, she loves to cook too. So it's all kidding aside, it's been good to kind of get the household in order and get ready for next season. I think that's something that's really important too, is when you have your house in order, like everything else is gravy. You get to, be at the rink 100%, knowing that, she's good, the baby's good, everybody has everything they need. So
it's part of your foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Have there been lessons learned about the importance of that along the way, in terms of how home life can affect on ice life and balancing the two? Especially, I would think this year, with all the focus on the opportunity, even more important to have that sort of that foundation ready to go and sort of comfortable.
Most definitely. I think that's a lesson that became ever present to me even last season, when Ava got pregnant, it was a shock to us, and it kind of took me by surprise. But, and it was kind of, I couldn't really think of anything else but that, it's kind of an all consuming thing. It's a pretty, you're a father as well, so you understand, but like, I think your firstborn it's, I guess what I'm getting at is indescribable. There's really no words, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just, the prospect of being a father and then how life would change, I think I'm a pretty like compassionate, empathetic person, but just understanding the true selflessness that it takes to, be a father, and be a good boyfriend in the process. Like that was something that was a huge development for me this past year. So that was a lot of growth off the ice that needed my attention. And, unfortunately, like the start of last season didn't go the way I wanted, but I think as a result, like I was able to respond really well, to that adversity. And I think what it taught me was just, if you take care of your home life and everything's set there, like you can go to the rink every day with no hesitation and, in a clear mind and go to work essentially. So, I mean, that's just paramount. And I think I'm lucky actually to learn it, at this age, and I still have like a lot of like, I like to think I have a lot of, neuroplasticity. So I can form like good habits and still feel like I'm relatively young, I guess. Maybe not in the hockey world, but I just have those good outlets and good channels and good lines of communication with Ava. And, I'm just very fortunate to have gone through that. And I think now I have even more directive on, what it is that I want. And, I've always had the dream of being an NHL goaltender, and then to finally get to play at that level, you realize what it takes to get there. But I think the next step is realizing what it takes to stay there. And I think just coming full circle, that's what, having, a child and, having to provide, like, that's what it's really given me, is that, it's given me, I want to say experience. It's more perspective, I guess.
And that's important when when work comes with that much pressure, being able to sort of have those things in order and have that perspective, I'm guessing would be really important. How do you, from the outside, obviously, whether it's us in the media or other media outlets, the focus is so much on the opportunity for next season. Is it harder because you don't even know when that starts? Like, and then the other part is like, do you do anything different? Because in the game, you can't force it, right? Like we don't get as goalies to dictate what's going to happen. We have to let it come to us. Now you have this opportunity sitting there. Can you try harder in the off season? Do you push your boundaries, or do you just stick with that foundation even more?
I think for me personally, like something that you said really kind of stands out, and it kind of ties into what a goalie coach of mine used to say when I was growing up. His name is Reto Sursch. He's Swiss.
I know I have been on the ice with Reto in Kelowna. Wow. He's got his fantastic net pegs. Still want to get a set of those, the ones with the drills. And he did some work in California. I did not know that you worked with him. The goaltending world is a small one.
It is small. So we can get into him later, but he would always tell, my goalie partner and I, when he was coaching us youth hockey, he said, the puck gonna come to you anyway. And that's like so profound, in his Swiss German accent, puck gonna come to you anyway. Like my goalie partner and I always joked, like we should get that tattooed on us because it's like a life motto, like you can't dictate, the pace of play. You can't dictate so many things in the game. You can't dictate what's going on in the world with the pandemic and everything. So I think you just go with what you continue to do, those foundational things. But for me, I think I'm the type of person that always likes to see an evolution in my game and also in my, personality and my off ice, habits. So like I've started doing Pilates, something that I thought would be, really good addition to my regimen. I was actually pushed to do Pilates more so by my girlfriend. She knew I had always really been interested in Pilates, and I thought there'd be a lot of benefit and crossover as a goaltender. And she's like, you know what? I'm just going to book you a class. So she booked me a class, and she's like, okay, like you have a class, like you have a private lesson with the owner of this studio like next week. So you better be there. So yeah. And then after the class, I was like, man, I fell in love with it. I just was like, I don't know. It's kind of like if you've ever done yoga, and I'm a huge proponent of yoga, and you get into that flow state, and you just like the time melts away. It feels like you've been there for, a couple seconds, and it's like hour and a half is already gone. So, So, I mean, I am doing those foundational, things. I'm in the gym 5 days a week, but, on the ice a couple days a week, but just adding little things, here and there that I think can make the difference in the long run and help me have a longer career.
It's funny you mentioned Pilates because I think I've always thought of it. I haven't done it myself. Done the yoga. Have been watched at other camps, things like Eldoa, other sort of techniques that are designed to sort of. They seem to fit physically with goaltending, but it sounds to me like Pilates also has there's a sort of mental aspect to it for you too, as well. Am I reading that right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's a lot of movements that require the use of some muscles that you've never called upon before. So it's a lot of like connection, mind to body of like, okay, I need to move this like, 5 inches upwards. Like, how am I going to do that? And you have like your instructor, she's like, okay, like make sure you're not using like your quads here. You're not using the big muscle groups. She's like, oh my God, how can I possibly do that? So like you're using those intrinsic muscles, those little tiny muscles that are, deep down inside that, I mean, you might not call on, all too frequently. So there is a lot of synergy, that's what I always kind of like, she and I are always talking about that synergistic, understanding of like, okay, brain thinks this, tells body to do this,
Nice. I got a new one for you that we'll have an article out in the next couple of weeks. And I'm starting to see and hear a few more anecdotes from goaltenders. I don't know if we'll get you there in the near future, but bar and ballet.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was talking about that with Abe the other day. I was like, I honestly would see so much benefit to just doing like some type of class like that. Like, I really think like as an athlete, like it's important to, get outside of your comfort zone, and that's essentially like with Pilates. Like I was like, oh man, like there's all these machines, these apparatuses, like I have no idea like how to use these. But the thing is, it's like open up your, like broaden your horizons and be receptive and, be able to be coachable in other, spheres other than hockey. Like there's a lot of transfer there, I think just from growing up and playing, like group sports, like, and especially hockey, like if you're coachable and you're approachable, like that's something that'll transfer to other, aspects of your life. So that's something that I think about constantly. It's like, okay, like I'm not a professional at this, I'm talking to a professional. Like, how can I gain? What can I gain from them?
Yeah, so physical literacy we talk about a lot with the kids, keep playing other sports and encouraging them not to just be goalies at such a young age. But it sounds like it's something that continues, even as a professional, like all these years into your pro career, physical literacy and expanding that still matters.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I joked. I was like, if Anderson, my son, if he decides to become a goalie, I'm going to have him in Pilates, like, as soon as he can. I'm going to have him in gymnastics, just to make him a good athlete. Just that having that ability to be, flexible and also like powerful. I feel like that's something that contributes to a long career.
Now, on the ice, you talked about always expanding your horizons on the ice. Obviously, a tough time. Like, how would your summer normally look? Like, would this, because you don't know when the season's going to start, but would you normally be like, are there coaches you would normally work with? Being in the bubble with Jimmy, was there an opportunity there to work on new things, or are you just trying to maintain and stay ready? Like, how is this strange 8 months sort of played out? And have you looked for, what is the next evolution on the ice? What's your focus?
Right. So typically I'll take like if the season had ended, normally I'll go with that scenario first. Like I would take probably like 3 to 4 weeks off, go see family, recharge. I'd probably still be doing yoga in the interim, just keeping flexibility, letting loose a little bit, maybe just enjoying food in a little bit different way, bringing nutrition, so to speak. But no, I mean, there's not a lot of inconsistency with how I live like in the off season and how I live in the season, but just enjoy life a little bit differently, I guess. Not as structured, more spontaneity. And then typically my summers, I like to spend learning new things from different people in the goalie world. So for instance, after my first year pro, I went to Switzerland to train with Reto, David Abisher, Martin Gerber. They have a camp there. So I was in Switzerland for about a month. So I skated, with those guys quite a bit. They have a pretty comprehensive camp. And then I skated a couple times with SC Byrne, and then also with Roman Yossi. He and I were working. He let me work out at his gym. He has a gym that he goes to there. So Reto, he runs deep though. He's got connections all over. So he was able to hook me up. But so that typical example. So I was in Switzerland for a month and just really like understanding the culture of goaltending there, the communication. Like I was a student in the camp and then I was also a coach, and I didn't speak, Swiss German or German or anything. So it made me really understand, like, I want these kids to understand this. How do I communicate that to them non-verbally? So it made me really have to think about what I was going to say, or how I was even going to like move to show them what to do. There were some kids that were nice enough to like interpret for me and translate, but so that was cool. So then I would come back and I would spend some time with Brian DeCord and Stop It Goaltending in Massachusetts, where I went to school. So initially when I went to Merrimack, the first summer I got there, my freshman year, they had Stop It Goaltending at Merrimack, like pretty comprehensive camp, like probably, I want to say like 8 weeks, 10 weeks of camp there. I was on the ice, coaching on the ice, as a student there as well, so just getting a lot of different opinions. But there's constantly like an evolution, in like my summers. There's never like a lot of, necessarily like consistency. Like I'm doing the same thing at the same time, like every single year. So I think that's maybe allowed me during this time, more freedom, and I'm not necessarily like freaking out, like, oh, I haven't like, done this right now. I haven't checked this box, So, I mean, that's great. Like I went back to see my mother a few weeks ago, and I was able to get on the ice with Brian, or I was able to get on the ice with Stop It Goaltending. We had a couple good guys. We had Mike Garteg. We had Chris Drieger, Craig Pantano, Joey DeCord, a couple, just to name a few, or Mike Condon as well. So it was a good group of guys, so we got to just pick each other's brains, and that's actually really nice too. And then like years before that, I went up to, I think it was Vancouver, to train with Mike Valley, Pascal Valena. I think it was elite goaltending.
Yeah. I've been to those camps. That's right here in my backyard. Yep.
Yeah. So, and that was when I was in junior, and the lessons that I learned there, I still implement to this day. There's a lot of, that was really kind of my first exposure to the goaltending world, like outside of California. So that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's all over the board for me. There's never like, one specific guy that I'm training with. I'm always trying to get, new ideas, new things to put in my toolbox. And more recently, like this past year, I'll skate at the Blackhawks practice facility, and Peter Aubry, the developmental goalie coach, he'll come out a couple days a week, and we'll work on our game, and he'll set up some drills. And yeah, it's great to have, like another set of eyes for your game. I could run myself into the ground, with skates, but it's always more entertaining, I think, when someone can give you, some direction and some drills and can tell you how you're moving. But, and then coming into the bubble, it was Lanks, myself, Subban, and Crawford. So we had 4 goalies. Lanks and I were more of the Black Aces. So we had a bit of a different schedule than the rest of the team. We were expected more so to be the lifeline, the support system, which is really challenging. I think that's something that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I had a couple options to be interviewed, during that time about what it was like to be a Black Ace, but I just didn't really think it was the right time to have that publicity. I think I really got the sense that, okay, it's about the ultimate goal here, which is winning the Stanley Cup. We have, our team, like, we're, as much as I wanted to be selfish and be like, oh, like this, this is really challenging. And like, I'd love to be practicing with the guys. Like, it's about the guys on the ice that are playing every night. And it really allowed me to understand what it was like to be in a more of a supportive role, especially being in Rockford. And, Lanks and I would split games, and, the year prior I would play more so, but it was great to learn and have that, balance, to see what it's like, to be a Black Ace, and it wasn't easy, like you're working out pretty hard every single day, you're skating pretty hard, and, there's a mental grind as well. Sometimes you get on the ice with, the team, and you wouldn't, see any reps, until the last like minute of practice, and it's because you really get the sense that, hey, like it's about the guys that are on the ice that are, going to win the game every night. So I didn't feel like the right time, to give an expose about what it was like to be a Black Ace, So, I mean, it was fun though. Like we made it fun. Like there's ping pong table there. So it was Philip Kurashev, Nick Bodan, some of the guys that I had played with in Rockford, some of the younger guys. We were just, going crazy on the ping pong table. Like we bought like these pretty serious ping pong paddles. They're like $50 each, and we were just trying to just have some fun, and be competitive and, outside the rink as well. I mean, because there really wasn't too much to do. There was, maybe you could go to Tim Hortons and whatnot, but we watched a lot of hockey as well. And that was something that was really cool. And that was something that that I haven't gotten to do in a long time. So it was really, really good to watch a lot of these goalies play too. That was something I really benefited from, like during the bubble. I watched as much hockey as I could. And I just realized, like, I was like, wow, I don't watch hockey like that much anymore. Like I watch my games and, maybe like when we were doing pre-scout, but it was like, it's been a while since I sat down and like I was a fan, so to speak. So that's something that was really cool too, that I haven't been able to feel in a while. But, and then to watch it, to be a fan from the perspective of like knowing, a good amount about goaltending and, being able to like be a little analytical about what was going on was pretty special. But as far as like working on our game in the bubble, it was the onus, I think, in the way Jimmy's coaching style is, it's like the onus was more so on Kevin and I to, come up with things that like we wanted to work on, because Jimmy was, his prerogative was, Subes and Crow. So like he was taking care of them. And I mean, Kevin and I got to know each other a lot better during that time as well. And we were like, hey, like this is what we need. Like these are the drills we want to do. Like, and there was an evolution, to that. Like initially we're like we were both like, well, we don't know how this works. This is our first time, being a black ace. So, and especially in a different circumstance than normal. So we just got to understand, how it was working. And he and I just kind of bonded together and we're like, hey, like this is what we need, Jimmy. These are the drills that we want to do. And he was like, all right, here we go.
So you had a little bit of time at least sometime. It wasn't just get in there at the end of practice and then get on the bus 5 minutes later. You did get some development time while you were there at least.
Yeah. It was marginal. And I think it was more our responsibility, especially with the restrictions of personnel. It's not like they could bring like all our developmental staff, which would be ideal, and maybe that's how it works normally. But, during this experience, it wasn't quite like that. So, yeah, I think it really just made us more responsible for our games and realize like, okay, no one's going to hand this to you. If you want to work on these things, like, especially right now, you got to speak up. So more,
what
advocacy. Sorry.
And I guess you do have to learn how to manage your own game, but also stand up for needing the time to work on it. What was there anything that when you step back and said, what do I need to work on? Here's an opportunity, make the most of it while I'm here. What was there any element that you're like, we're doing this today, or we need to do that the whole time I'm here? Or did it just kind of change as you were there? Like you said, evolved.
Yeah, I think it was constantly developing, but for me, I'm someone who always enjoys working on post play integration and, like exploding out, it was something that Kevin and I are always emphasizing. I mean, he's so good on his post as well. And it's fun, for me, it's like personal challenge, like to get a good hit on the post. Like if I'm doing an RVH or, whatever the drill may be, or even if I don't get a good hit, like something that he and I, like Kevin and I were talking about was like, like if you're doing a controlled drill and you don't get like an ideal hit on the post, like you got to correct and finish it out. I think a lot of kids or, a lot of, guys have been on the ice with, it's like they stop and like try and do it perfectly every time. But it's like, no, because sometimes in the game, stuff's going to happen and it's not going to go your way. And you have to be able to, adjust on the fly. So just kind of having that, like trying to be in that frame of mind where we could deal with like a chaotic circumstance and still be level-headed. Because I think that's one of the hardest things in practice. And then especially practice with limited amount of players where you're not seeing the type of volume. It's like you have to try and, put yourself in that mindset. So it was a lot of, what is this drill and how can I imagine a scenario where I'm playing in this manner?
Yeah, I remember one year Frederick Anderson, telling me that one of their focuses on practice was to get himself in imperfect situations because he had become needed to hit that spot. Like you said, a good hit every time. So they actually worked on when it wasn't good, like let's put you in some weird spots and learn how to sort of recover and manage and do those types of things. I got to ask, what's a perfect hit for you? Skate on, toe box? You're not like Tuca with the shin?
So for me, it's probably the toe box for sure. But I love the shin on the post as well. Like I think mainly because it was something that was like my first introduction to like true post play, like from the RVA or just from a butterfly into the post or from RVH or whatever. Like I remember being at Mike Valley in Pascoval in his camp, and I remember we did this drill where we were just going like back and forth, like knee, shin, whatever it was, just like on the post. And I was like, whoa, that's a novel thing. I've never thought of that before. But then I realized like it was something that I kind of did naturally when I was playing juniors. I would kind of go into like a butterfly lean on the post. And I was like, oh, this has a name, and then I kind of like developed. I was never really a skate on guy. But Reto, when I was training with him actually in youth hockey, we kind of emphasized like skate on, and then after that, I just, I had the skate on, I had the shit on, and then someone showed me like, oh, you can do the toe box as well. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a natural progression, but I don't really like using the post protectors because I think that it affects like my integrate, like my feeling on the post. And I'm such a sensory person. Like when I'm on the post, like I'm RVH and I'm in my toe box and like my body is leaning against the post, I like to feel, that connection.
That's funny.
So,
we posted some RVH edge work that Sergei Bobrovsky was doing from last season. We put it on Instagram, and he's skate on, but he's got the post protectors, the edge post protectors on, and a bunch of people commented that like, yeah, well, it's not steel on steel. It's like, it's not the same feeling as in a game when you're, like how much easier not easier because it was really hard just to watch, but how much different it would be if it was steel on steel versus having that rubber edge. So that's interesting that you notice that and feel that.
For sure. Yeah. I think I watched that video too. And I had the same thought. I was like, well, I don't know, because well, then also like, you got to think too. I'm thinking from like the perspective of like, I'm so finicky, like with the edge on my skate, like there's no way I want to hit skate on post, like,
oh yeah, that drill, it'd be, your edges are done.
Yeah. Then I'm going to be getting my skate sharpened every period, new blades every period. But, the equipment managers don't like that. I don't like using the post guards, but I try to get a good hit every time so they don't have to worry about it.
So toe box on post. So have you got like bungee set up on your Brian's pads, or do you go for laces with a few knots tied in there to create a little gap for that?
Yeah.
What's the preference?
I'm more of I guess I'm a little bit antiquated with the laces. I don't do knots. I actually do like one knot at the toe bridge, and then I put like 2 finger space and then tie another knot. And then, so it's probably like 2 inches of like slack. But yeah, the more and more I see those bungee cords, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should give it a try. I don't know. I guess I'm not playing with my gear, but I guess I get comfortable with it. I'm like, why do I need to change? I still use like a foam core stick too. I don't like the composite ones.
You're going to have trouble finding those soon enough, my friend. They're getting tough.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. They had to Warrior. Ron Sanko is the guy that I work with, and he was like, hey, so I don't really like those foam core sticks, but we're going to get rid of them soon, and they're not going to make them anymore. So
you got like a warehouse somewhere where they're all stocked up?
Yeah. So he's like, we'll make you like probably like 200, but like once you go through those, you're done. So he's like, it gives you like maybe like 3-4 years to transition to the composite one. So
okay, well, the one thing I'll say on the elastic, it's funny because David Hutchison, the other voice on this podcast, his son is like you, toe box on, and he prefers the skate lace gap. So shout out to Matty Hutchison for the same. When he tries the elastics, if you're pushing off with the toe box, like with your sort of toe of your skate inside the post and that toe box seal there, and you go to push off with the bungee gives, as opposed to your gap that little 2-inch gap you've built in is fixed, right? So there's some rigidity to it. So when you push off, you've got some stability there. With the bungee, if you were to push off of that, the bungee would give for a little bit before it started you in motion. So
so there's a little lag.
Yeah, there might be a lag with a bungee that you don't get right now, and you probably don't want that lag.
Yeah, no. Interesting. Yeah, I honestly never thought about it that way.
We're just
that seems really popular for like, especially like the younger crowd, as I'm seeing like more of like the youth like gear come about. Like it seems almost that's like standard procedure like on a lot of pads now.
It's definitely getting there. It's definitely getting there. Although there are a few of us old folks that still like to have our laces.
I used to have toe buckles.
Oh, now that's old school. I'm looking forward to Braden Holtby coming to town because he's still got the cutout in the toe of the pad. No buckles, but he's still got the cutout.
Yeah. So my first year of juniors, I had Coho pads. I can't remember the model. I want to say Revolution 590.
88.
Honestly, I don't know. It was the ones. So Jonas Hiller was a big idol of mine growing up, and I was
California
like, oh,
Ducks. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh man, I love this guy's style. And like, he was pretty goofy with the way he wore his gear, like he was pretty out there. Right. But I wanted those pads. Like I loved like training with Reto, like Reto and Jonas, like have a really good relationship. I think they may have even played together in Switzerland. So, that was probably a big reason why I wanted those pads. Right. And I was like, all right, I'm going to wear the toe buckles. Like I'm going to do everything, like Jonas. And like, I got the toe buckles and went out for like a skate and I was like, oh my God, how does he move in these? Like, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, there's no way I can do this. No absolute way.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So the relationship with Brian's had some really stylish gear. It means you got Chris Joswiak as a pro rep. That's always a positive. We love Jaws.
Yeah.
What like you went to when you were in university? You were engineering. Now, how much of a gear guy are you? Like, do you tinker? Or are you, for all the little things you talked about changing in your game and trying Pilates, are you tinkering with your gear? You got Jaws trying new features all the time, or like you said with the toe laces, are you tried and true, stick with it?
So I tinkered to a certain point. I think when I was younger, there was a lot of development with that. Even when I was playing youth hockey, like my goalie partner, his name's Art Bry, like he and I were always just messing around with our gear. And like I had Brian's at the time too. And he had Bauer pads, and we were just like, how could we like modify our pads? And we get I think it was called the Speedy Stitcher out. And we're always messing with that. And when I got to junior, I was like, okay, how can I, mess around with my shoulder pads, make them a little bit bigger, maybe. But I always loved like fixing my gear too. Like if anything went wrong, like I was the one that was going to be in charge of fixing it. Like I didn't want my equipment managers to do that, at least when I was in junior and in college. But yeah, I think I kind of got my pads like pretty dialed to like where I want them right now. I think the good thing with Brian's too is like the way I have the strapping. I have the Heritage pads, I believe. I don't even know what pads I have. That's so bad. But there's kind of like an ability to do, make them fit a little differently. With the Velcro, that's something that I never thought I would like. I was like, oh, I'm going to have leather straps. Like, there's no way I'm going to do this Velcro stuff. Like, but I tried it and I was like, oh, I actually kind of like it, So, yeah, I mean, I kind of removed like the knee wrap on my pads like pretty early on. I'd say like my first year of college, I was in CCM and I never wore like that knee wrap. I never put the strap from, the knee channel to the knee wrap, essentially, like how a lot of guys do.
Oh, like a thigh wrap kind of thing, like the thigh board style wrap, you mean, or
no? So like the
like the elastic.
Gear.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So like the landing gear on your knee, and then you have the elastic that goes around to the outer. Yeah, I could never get comfortable like in a butterfly with that. There was just too much torsion, and like my pads never rotated how I want them. So like I remember even prior to me wearing Brian's. Yeah, like I said, like even before CCM, like when I was in the Cohos, like I just wore that loose. Like there was not even like a strap, like an elastic strap. I just wore it so my knee would like my pad would rotate around my knee, and I would land like in a pretty good butterfly. Everyone, it's so funny. Everyone's always talking about like, oh, like butterfly flare, it looks so wide. And I was skating like when I was back in Massachusetts, I was skating with Michael Gerteg, and he was like, man, like your butterfly is so wide. And I'm like, is it? Like, I don't know. And I'm thinking now maybe it's a consequence of the way I wear my pads, like I have that really big open knee channel. Like, I guess it's kind of similar to like what Price does, if I'm recalling.
I'm looking at pictures as we're talking here, trying to picture this in my head.
Yeah. So I think Price doesn't have like
he keeps it pretty wide open, and then he takes that elastic from the knee stack and wraps it down to the outside of the calf.
Yeah. So I had to start doing that, because like eventually got to the point where like when my pads broke down and weren't stiff anymore, like they would over rotate. So I had to, that was the evolution of that. But yeah, I wear my bootstrap like pretty loose, and people are like, well, why do you even need a bootstrap? And it's like, when I extend, all the way, I can feel it. Like when I flex my foot, I can feel, like the end range, like with my heel. And like, I like to have that security. But I see some guys, like they don't have a strap. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do that. Because I feel like my foot would just shoot out, and my knee wouldn't land like in the landing gear, like in the place that I wanted. So
you're playing with it. There's an evolution there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I've tried like that little Lundqvist strap, like I have the VH skates. So I've played with that, throwing the bootstrap there. I don't know if that's my thing though. I don't like the way my blade angle hits. Like, I don't know. It's different. Like it's all a feel thing. Obviously it always comes down to that, but I feel that I don't have as much blade on the ice. If I'm in a butterfly and I need to push laterally, like I don't feel like I can get like the quick responsiveness that I can like with a loose bootstrap around my skate.
So all this passion on the ice, gear, where did this all start? Like, was gear one of the starting points? How did you fall in love with the position? Because you clearly have a passion for it from every aspect. How did it start for you?
Yeah, I think I could go back to like the catalyst, like when I was young. I remember going in. I started playing roller hockey. It was how I started playing hockey. My dad
growing up in SoCal, right? Like Rancho Cucamonga. Have I said that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's a real place.
Yeah, it exists. It's actually, I think, where Workaholics it takes place. Have you ever heard of that show? But so I remember just walking into the rink. It was the Wayne Gretzky Center on Foothill in Upland, and like I just remember like the pro shop. It was just, I remember the way everything smelled mainly, and like everything looked so large. And I just remember like seeing the goalie pads, and I don't know why I gravitated towards that, but just like the design must have been good marketing, right? It was just like, oh, those are cool, And I remember telling like my parents, like, oh, like I want to be a goalie, And I'm like, no, like there's no goalies like in this age group, because like when I started playing like Tykes or whatever it was called back then, like we just had the shooter tutors, right? So like I remember when we graduated to, it was mite hockey, I was like, oh yes, like I can be a goalie now, but then it was like, oh well, like goalie is like a revolving position on our team, like, I was like, oh really? But it got to the point where like no one wanted to be goalie on my team, and the coach asked like, hey, like you keep signing up to be goalie, like do you just want to be the permanent goalie? And I was like, oh yeah, so I didn't have my own set of pads, right? And I remember we had like the team gear, and that was cool, obviously. But I remember going home and just like shooting on myself, playing situations over in my head and like having on my mini net. And then I remember asking my dad, I was like, oh, like I wonder if I could make my own goalie pads. So like I had him like give me like some shoe boxes, and I cut like semicircles in the top and bottom, because I was like, oh, like I don't have straps, but like it opens in half, so I could like cut a hole, and then I could like, they could go on my legs, I could play hockey, like, very limited understanding, but I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I could, make my own pads. Right. And I think just like he saw, I really loved it. He really identified. I was like, okay, like we got to get this kid some pads. So I remember that Christmas just opening up these pads, and I was like, oh my God, like that was that was the best thing. That was the best Christmas gift I could have ever got. You know?
That's hilarious. What do you remember what they were?
Yeah, I believe they were iTechs.
Nice.
They were like the Cordura. They were the whole pad is Cordura, right? Like I think that material is like what they do on like the side wall, like the outer edge of pads, right? Like that thin, like, lightweight material. Yeah, I just remember them being like that material, and I remember they had like these nylon buckle straps. They were like just pressure snaps too. They weren't like buckles or anything. Like they weren't even. I don't even think they were even like plastic like clicks, you know. But yeah, that was awesome. And then it just from there I was hooked, you know.
That's funny. You would not believe how many guys have stories involving gear at Christmas that sort of, you know, either it sparked the passion or it took it to another level, or it was like their first real mask or their first real set of pads. And it was like Christmas and goaltending, man. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And I think it does, you know, and like that was like my main obsession. Like anything I could save, you know, in money or whatever, it always went towards like a new set of pads or whatever. Like that was my main prerogative growing up, is if I could get new gear, like, you know, I could get this stick, you know. But there was a time where like my parents were divorced, so it got like pretty hairy. So I had 2 sets of gear. But the thing was, they were different brands. So I would have like, and this is by the time I was playing ice hockey at this time, I would have like grass skates with my dad, and then I would have like CCM skates with my mom, you know? So it was hard for a bit, but it was fun.
So you grew up in California, played roller hockey, fell in love with the game, watching Jonas Hiller with the Ducks, I'm guessing. You end up going to play the NAHL in Amarillo. Like those are not the most conventional markets, going from Rancho Cucamonga to Amarillo, Texas.
Right.
Who some of the influences early, like when did you have your first goalie coach? Where I'm guessing Reto was probably someone that you worked with in Cali too, because I know he had camps there. Is that where that started? Any other influences at that age going into these different markets and then ultimately onto college?
Yeah. So one of my first goalie coaches was a gentleman by the name of Georgie Catalano. He still coaches in California. He's salt of the earth type of guy. Like he is very like, he used to work for Rick Hines. So he used to run the Rick Hines camps, but he's very, I guess by today's standards, you know, he's pretty old school, but he's very much a life coach in that regard. He, you know, the kids who he trains, he, you know, he whips them into shape. You know, there's a lot of, you know, you have like, he sent me this shirt that he had made and it says, "Yes, coach," because I don't know if there was like a challenge with some kids, like addressing him as coach, but like he would always appreciate being addressed as coach, or like, "Yes, coach," "No, coach," you know? So like, that's kind of his motto, is like, "Yes, coach." But he was just kind of the one that gave me like my first taste of structure. And it was him and a gentleman, I guess actually before Georgie, was a gentleman by the name of Mike Sherman. You might remember him. He had a goalie company out of, I want to say Pennsylvania. And if it wasn't Pennsylvania, it was somewhere on the East Coast. But he played for the Long Beach Ice Dogs, I believe. And he actually worked, I think, at one of the original roller rinks. But he used to have a what was it called? Like a puck machine at this rink that I used to train growing up, Yorba Linda Ice Center, I believe it was called. And I remember that's like when I transitioned from roller hockey to ice hockey, he was kind of the one that, you know, taught me more of like, you know, like the technical, like butterfly, stick save, blocker save, glove save. And it was all on like one of those puck machines, you know? And I just remember like when I was first doing those like private lessons, like it was all on synthetic ice. So
wow.
it was not on real ice. So I mean, I got my first taste like of like a goalie private, like on synthetic ice with like a puck shooting machine, and like do so many stick saves, and like it would get so like repetitive and so fast. I just remember like where I hold my stick on my hand, you know, between like your index finger and your thumb. I remember like one day, like after like looking down and just like it was blue, like black and blue, just like so many pucks, you know. But
All
I
the
think maybe like,
vibrations.
yeah, exactly. I think I love that though. Like I could be in there for like 2-3 hours. It was heaven, you know, especially as a kid. Like you don't know any time. My dad's like twiddling his thumbs like outside, you know. But yeah, so it was Mike Sherman, Georgie Catalano, and then I'm trying to think who else. There was a gentleman named Steve Switzer. And then after Steve, it was Reto. And I think Reto is pretty influential, and I give him a lot of credit for, you know, helping me really understand the more, like, I guess, the finer aspects of goaltending, you know, and even from like a philosophical standpoint, you know, like what I told you earlier, like puck's going to come to you anyways. Like the approach that he had to the game was really like palatable, and I was able to digest that, like, you know, fairly quickly. And, you know, I saw a lot of improvement, and I trained with him. I think it was my last, I think I was 16 turning 17. It was my last year that I played youth hockey. And I just remember after that, I just had so much momentum, you know, heading into junior hockey. Like, I don't know, it just, my game took a, you know, huge leap. And, you know, I deserve to give him a lot of credit for that. So, yeah. And then after Reto, I didn't have a goalie coach in junior hockey at all. I remember asking the coach my first year, I was like, hey, like, is it possible like to get like a goalie coach, you know, in Amarillo, Texas, you know, like middle of nowhere, right? And he's like, just stop the expletive puck, you know, like you got one job, just focus on stopping the puck. Don't worry about it. You know, so then I was like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna have to become my own goalie coach in a sense. So, you know, I remember like after we had practice in the morning, you know, like 10 a.m. And then, you know, we had open ice the whole rest of the day. So we'd have practice, we'd grab lunch, go work out, and then we'd come back to the rink, and I would grab a couple of guys and we would like set up some drills, you know, and we do like, I'd have my own goalie sessions. You know, I was like the dictator out there telling these guys where to go, like how to shoot it, like stop the drug. Like, no, that's not right. Like, you know, but yeah. So, I mean, those are my main goalie coach influences growing up.
Now, how's your game evolved and the past couple of years? Like, what do you think's been the biggest step? I mean, you know, talking to guys like Peter Aubry, they talked about just how, like what a great skater you are. Is that always been like, is that something you worked on, or it's come naturally, those movement? Maybe it's all those hours on the synthetic ice. Real ice probably feels like super easy. But how's it evolved over the past couple of years? Because like you said, you know, it's a position that's constantly evolving. We've seen the game in front of goalies at the pro level evolve so much east-west, which I would imagine suits, you know, you got to be a good skater. If you can't move, you can't play these days.
Right.
Is it more reads and tactics as opposed to technical? What's been the biggest steps over the past 2 years?
Yeah, I think for me, like skating is something that's really enjoyable for me. It was always challenging. And I remember growing up with my coach Georgie, we would do like shuffles and T pushes like around the entirety of the ice. So like, I think just by virtue of like, that was normal for me, I became really proficient at skating. And I think that's something I always rely on. And I think for a while there, I was getting in trouble, and I love, like being able to like be mobile and move, super athletic, like my first year junior, like I really had to tone it down, less, less Jonathan Quick, more JS Jaguar, like, so that's, I think in the past 2 years, that's something I've really focused on. And I think as a result, that's helped my reads, because I think that's one thing you consistently hear at the pro level. It's like, it's all about your reads. It's all about your reads. I mean, there's guys, like you look at a guy like Robin Leonard, he's not necessarily known for his skating ability, like a guy like Carey Price or whatever, who we all like idolize for that. But, like Robin's like really good at reading the play, so I think I've moved more towards being like efficient, and getting rid of all of this like excess, movement, and putting all of that energy back into, watching the puck, and reading like where the players are on the ice, and recognizing and identifying who like the next most dangerous player is, like without the puck. That's something that Peter Aubrey talks about a lot, is just having that awareness of, you got to know where everybody is on the ice. And like, it's almost, I guess you could compare it to like chess in a way, like I play a lot of chess. So, chess isn't, you can't be so concerned always with trying to, attack the opponent's king. Like you have to be strategic in the way that you do that. So it's like not always about the most dangerous piece in the moment, but, what's the next piece that could inflict, the most damage. So with that in mind, like having that perspective, like on the ice, it's like, okay, this guy has the puck, but he's not in a dangerous like position to shoot the puck. Like I have to respect him, I mean, you have to respect the guy with the puck always, but who is he looking to pass to? Who is he looking to make the most advantageous play to? And that's where I think the evolution of my game has, begun. Is obviously I love skating and I'm a great skater, but I know that I have that ability. If I get into like a sticky, situation, like I'm comfortable, moving out of an uncomfortable situation, whether it be on my feet or on my knees. Like I know I can get there. So it's playing more within myself and understanding that I have that explosive athletic ability, but just kind of being a little bit more patience on my feet, patience reading the play, understanding where everyone is on the ice. And I think also, using my experience more. I mean, I have 3 years of pro experience. Like it's not that much, but I can use those situations that I've seen. I have that muscle memory. I've formed, those neuro channels in my brain to understand, I've seen this situation before. I can fast track that. Like it's a quicker response.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah, just trusting myself. It's like, oh, I've been in this situation before, or like 2-on-1, like what's the option? And it's like left-handed, right-handed, like, or shoulders towards me, where his feet pointing, So I mean, just I think goalies, like we're constantly like gathering information subconsciously, and I think there's a lot of things that we do really well that we don't even think of, right? And it's almost like ignorance is bliss, but I think once you can unearth like, oh, well, why am I doing that well? Then you can be more consistent in the end. You can identify, like what it is specifically, technically about that. Like, what were you thinking in that moment? Like, I think one good thing, there's a bunch of good things, but one of the really amazing aspects about Peter Aubrey is that when we're doing, like a video session, he's like, like try and think back, like what were you reading in that moment? Like, were you reading this guy's stick? Like, were you looking at this guy over here? You know, like he's very cerebral in the sense that the way he thinks the game is to understand it better and not just to play well. He really wants to understand like the X's and O's and the ins and outs. And especially as a goaltender, like I feel like sometimes we can back ourselves back ourselves in a corner and like not really care about like the technical aspects of hockey. You know, it's like, just stop the puck. But like, once you understand the game more, you know, once you recognize trends and you have that association, like I think you're going to stop more pucks because, you know the situation that's coming at you. You know how this team plays on the power play. You know who they're looking to give it to. You know where that guy likes to shoot. Like, it's just the evolution. It's using all the information and applying it. Like, I love the saying, there's no way to supplement experience with knowledge. You know, you can be like the smartest person in the world, you know, but if you haven't gone through it, if you haven't gone through any adversity, I don't think that feedback loop is that meaningful. Once you have the experience, once you've been able to, you know, have that like tried and true method, like I think that's it. And I think for me, like I had a lot of knowledge about the position. I have a lot of understanding, and now it's using that coupled with my experiences to have like a new level of performance.
So would it be fair to say just because the experiences of the last year have been so wide ranging from right back to last summer, probably I think a lot of us expected you and Corey, and then they signed Robin, you know, even just that adversity there, like fair to say the experiences of the last year have you more ready for the opportunity ahead than maybe you would have been a year ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I spoke recently in another interview about that, just saying like, you know, after my first, you know, like shot, you know, when I played 16 games or whatever it was, like felt like pretty competent, you know, earning, you know, a contract out of that. I was like, all right, like now it's time to take the next step, you know? So it was kind of like, oh, well, that was weird. You know, that was a strange, you know, signing, but it gave me a greater understanding of how good you need to be and how consistent you need to be to stay there, you know, to stay in the NHL. It's once I played my first NHL game, there was kind of, I don't know, it's like there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. Like there's a lot of toil, you know, there's a lot of sacrifice, like not just on your part, on your parents, like on everyone who's helped you get to that point, you know. But it's like after you've played that first NHL game, like you have to set new goals, you know, because it's like everyone's like, oh, I want to make it to the NHL, you know, I want to play in the NHL. But like after you play that first NHL game, it's like, all right, like you can't have a lull. Like you have to reestablish some like new goals. And it's like, what are those new goals going to be?
Did you, I'm curious, you talked about reading the game and moving less. Can you explain to me how they fit hand in hand? Like, I think I have an idea, but like, does it just allow you to, like, when we talk about moving less, it's just as simple as playing deeper, or is it even more than that? Like just allowing the information to come at you a little longer before you move? What?
Yeah. So I think it's processing speed, you know, how quickly like you are reading the information and adapting your body and your positioning as a result. Because I mean, constantly like your body is making all these little tiny assumptions and recalculations based on, you know, the information that you're gathering, you know, from the shooter, from the other guys on the ice, from your D-man, you know. So I I think it's how quickly you're processing that information. And I think that's something that like only comes with experience. But I think a lot of like great young goalies are seemingly really quick processors because they're such good skaters now, and there's a lot of information available to the younger crowd now that wasn't previously like available to like kids from my generation, like there's a lot of resources, Instagram, like your guys' publication, like breaking these minute aspects of the game down. But like, I don't think that's like, it's a great head start, but it's no supplement like for experience. Like you have to get into games, you have to play games. Like that's one of the hardest things I think is, game time. Like you can practice all you want, but you have to play games. And that's one thing for me. I think that my goals moving forward is just to play more games, because I look at like my career and I feel like, man, I haven't played a lot of games, like I need to get and see more situations. And, I think that's one thing that's like a goal for me. It's like to just continue to play more. But yeah, and I think just the processing overall, of the information at hand. And I play a little bit more deeper in my net just because I think that like I want to beat pucks as much as I can on my feet, and I don't want to get lost, and like I'm constantly subconsciously thinking of like my box control, like if the shooter is entering, like from the blue line and like he takes a shot, like it's almost like a negligible difference. Like if I'm at like toes touching top of the crease or like heels touching the top of the crease, so I think that like it gives me a little bit of an advantage too, if I can have a little bit more time on my side to process everything. I think it's moving less in the sense of like physically I'm moving maybe like 6 inches less, so that's where I'm thinking about it from.
Which gives you more time to make those reads.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something I actually learned a lot about from Robin, is he's a guy that's like, he's constantly like his depth is like changing like minutely or maybe even not at all. It's just, I mean, he's obviously a big guy. So like he's using his size to his advantage as well, but he knows like the angle, like if he's, for instance, like, if he's on his left post, and it's a 2-on-1, like he knows what angle he has to come back, to the post. Like if there's a pass across the ice, to make the bet or to put him in a position to make the best possible save, like he understands those angles. He understands the geometry. He understands the trajectory of the puck.
He's an elite reader of the game, isn't he?
Yeah.
Did you guys like, as much as you like, you're a thinker too, did you guys have gab sessions? Did you get to pick up anything from him, or is it just watching?
Yeah, I did. I mean, he's a unique individual. He has a very interesting way of communicating. And I think initially, like when I didn't know him that well, I was like, okay, how do I approach, him? Cause like he would talk like what I thought was like talking at me, it wasn't like a conversation for like two people, but I think as I got to know him better, that's just the way he is, he understands his game, and he's like, yeah, like all you have to do is this. It's that simple, it's like, yeah, Robin, but like, yeah, you are also, you have a very special set of talents, and not everybody can play like that, so he once told me, he said, he's like, you're so athletic, but he's like, you need to play more of like the old fat goalie, I was like, oh man. So it's almost in a way, I guess, like in a roundabout way, I guess it's what I'm aiming to do, anyways, is like play more within myself, like use my athleticism when I need it. So like I was able to discern like what he was saying, from the information he relayed. But he's a funny guy. It was fun to compete with him in the summer, like as we got closer to training camp, like, and there was more guys coming in. Like, he was a funny voice to hear in the room, like, just because, like, he doesn't care what anybody says, like, he's gonna tell you what he thinks.
Just open,
it's kinda,
and honest, and well,
yeah,
like, and well thought too. Like, I've always enjoyed the conversations about the game with him. He's got a strong opinion on things, like reverse VH, for example, and how much maybe kids are getting killed by it. But also, like, just it's well thought out.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and I don't think it's coming from a place of like malice. I think
No,
he's very virtuous in like what he's saying. I think he legitimately like wants the best, for people, and he wants what's good for the game. It's just happens to be a different way than a lot of people communicate. So just kind of rocks the boat a little, but I think that's great.
Collin, I just looked at the time, buddy, and this is we've taken up a ton of your time. I cannot believe, and I haven't even done my famous last question, but I wanted to say thanks. This we're going to set records for length of interview, but I've enjoyed every minute, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, it doesn't feel like we've been at it for over an hour, but we have, man. So
yeah, it doesn't.
I better let you go to your son. Thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. I know our listeners are gonna enjoy it as well.
Yeah, thanks for considering me. It's been a blast, and it's really cool to be on here, and I've listened to so many guests before, so it's awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
There's stuff left on the table there, which is hard to say, because you guys covered a lot of ground. That was a fun interview with Collin Delia.
Yeah, and I think you described it perfectly. I kind of struggled to find the right words going into that interview, but as we were talking off air here, like, there was just a Zen vibe to the whole thing. Like, just such a like you could just sit there and talk for hours with this guy, right? Like, you feel good listening to him share his story. And the only sad part is we went so long that I hadn't anticipated being that long. And did I even ask a last question? I didn't, because I actually had to get out quickly, because we had run into I've got a couple weekly paid radio hits with TSN, and we'd run into them, and I needed to answer the phone that was ringing, because I'm getting paid to be on the air, and I couldn't stand them up. And so I kind of had to end it abruptly. And there were a few more questions. I did have last questions, because, I mean, we didn't get into, like, him and his partner, Ava. They own a leather company just that's near their home. It's nearby. He was telling me that's like the studio type place, the shop. It's really close. Maybe even the same building, but where they can come and go from it. It's called Portier Leather Company. He loves working with leather. He does woodworking, leather making, all kinds of things. And I wanted to ask him about those hobbies and the importance of those hobbies to find that balance that he seems so good at achieving. Obviously we talked about, being an engineer in university to engineering degree. Like, there's so much more, so many other places you could still go with Collin Delia. I was going to say, like, to me, it's like the beer ad, the most interesting man in the world. Like, I think Collin Delia might be the most interesting goaltender in the world.
Wow. A leather company. And then you go to the ballet, and that he'd just been thinking about the bar ballet, and like there's a lot going on. I don't know when he ever sleeps, because there's so much going on in that brain.
Oh, well, he's got a newborn, so he probably just doesn't sleep like the rest of us did when they were little. You guys remember those days. We're all too old now to remember it, but it was like that,
Wow. Fascinating conversation. And Hutch, like the doors there for him to walk through with the Chicago Blackhawks with the exit of Corey Crawford to grab a spot.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating season in Chicago with a couple of young goaltenders, whoever they might end up being. I'm sorry, I'm a little behind here, guys, because I'm on the Portier leather company shop right now, looking at a couple of really cool wallets. And this was not inserted for Collin. In fact, it actually came up offline with Woody, and then he mentioned it, and here I am. So I might be doing a little Christmas shopping today, or it's almost Black Friday, but I don't see any Black Friday sales there right now, boys.
Wallet. It has to come with a dollar bill in it, or else it's bad luck. So you just like the Black Friday sale with the Sense Arena, it's like you can't not benefit from it.
I think before you buy one though, Hutch, especially, well, you said Christmas, so it might be shopping for others, but if you're buying for yourself, we need to send Collin a message and ask him if he has the Costanza model. I picture Hutch with like the 3-inch thick wallet. Like I don't know why, but I'm just like, I don't even have a wallet. I just carry a money clip with cards in it, but I picture Hutch with a 3-inch wallet.
I actually have.
Hutch, I'll take.
No, you actually couldn't be further from the truth. You've got a money clip because you've got some money. I don't have the money clip, but I've got a couple of cards in a little folder. So, no, you're wrong.
I have the Costanza. I do.
I deserve Costanza. There's a lot of reasons I'm Costanza. I'll own that one, but not the wallet, brother.
Yeah, my coworkers all make fun of me, and I embrace it because I'm the old guy in the office, and I have to. That's exactly what you do. But nice that you guys are so modern.
Yeah, yes. I don't actually, and Hutch may chirp about the money. I actually just put my cards in it, slide my cards in the clip.
I kept losing my cards. I had to go to it. It was my family was getting tired of me looking for my cards and leaving all the cards in the previous pair of pants, jeans, and all that kind of stuff. So I just had to buckle down.
So
and get it.
So you went to a wallet so big it could be spotted from space.
And I can find it everywhere. Like in the golf bag, I know exactly. I just reach in. There's no searching around. It's just one big thing right there. But I may have to check out what's the leather company and the website?
It is Portier Leather. Portier, excuse me. PORTIERE leather.com. It'll be in the show notes.
Throw that one in the show notes. Yep, absolutely.
That's perfect. Start the show with taking care of your upper body, and we pad your back pocket with the leather wallets and Portier Leather Company. This has been a fun episode. Collin, Delia, and Can Matwiv. And remember, everybody, one more plug. Sense Arena and the Black Friday sale and the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, thehockeyshop.com. Also with Black Friday sales. Check them out. It's a fascinating, fun time of the year that we can focus on goalie gear and save a little bit of a jing along the way. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. We'll chat with you next week for episode 96 of In Goal Radio, the podcast.